Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the First Class, Second Place podcast. I'm your host, Jason Enrique. Happy New Year. Happy 2025 to everybody. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we got a wonderful first class guest up in the building today. But before we continue, I want to remind everybody that we are live in Bravery Studios in Garfield, New Jersey. Shout out to Najee behind the glass. Happy New Year, brother. Hope you're doing well. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So it's now 2025 and it's the new year for opportunity, first things first, a whole bunch of other things. And this is going to be a first for First Class, Second Place. This is the first time I have a guest of this caliber on the show. This is the first episode of 2025. This is the first time I have a new haircut and just a whole bunch of stuff going on. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me introduce my guest. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome John Pinet, a.k.a. John the Animal. What is going on, brother?
Yeah, thanks for having me, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for coming through, man. I really appreciate it. So coming all the way from Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn born and bred.
Yes, definitely.
All right. So, I mean, let's start from the beginning. Like, growing up in Brooklyn, New York, like, what was the experience like growing up?
Well, wasn't easy. Specifically, Brownsville, especially. That's where I was, from the projects, you know, and I'll embrace that,
I mean, never forget where you come from,
Of course. So definitely, like, I embrace it, It was tough growing up. Definitely around that time, being light-skinned as well, around that area wasn't easy, but, as I got older, carried myself accordingly, and is what made me who I am today, strong individual, tough, and still there to this day,
Yeah. Now, what I know from you is that, well, first and foremost, we got to know each other because of acting. We were actually on a movie set where I don't know if we're able to talk about it just yet. I don't know if you signed any contracts or anything, but let's just say that, just for argument's sake, that we met on a movie set, and that's where this whole shebang started. But so I knew you as first as an actor, but as I got to follow you and I got to know you a little bit more, one thing that I was pleasantly surprised to know was that you're actually a wrestler, like you're in professional wrestling.
Yes.
So I guess it seems pretty obvious, but would you say that that was one of your first loves growing up in Brooklyn? Like you always knew that you wanted to be in wrestling. Were you always a wrestling fan since day one?
Yeah, you can say that. But it was more so, I guess, being in shape. I guess I'll put it like that. Growing up, I just had this thing in my head where it was like I wanted to be a big, jacked guy.
You wanted to be like the Hulk.
Yeah. Just look in shape. And that was, I will watch wrestling, I used to watch, WWE, all those, I guess it was there, but like, you're not really thinking about it much as a kid. I was more of a gamer, I'll be honest.
Okay, no, hey, there's nothing wrong with that, absolutely.
But I definitely tuned in all the time to watch, SmackDown, Raw, WWE, whatever they had on. So definitely, I guess that's where I got most of my, the big guy look, looking at Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Guys like that, around that time growing up. And then
Who's the one that you looked up to the most, or a couple of them that you look up to?
See, most people would think it's Batista.
Okay.
Because, I have the nickname The Animal.
Okay.
He was one of them, but the primary one I'll say was Brock Lesnar and then Goldberg.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
See, I'm assuming that you're a little bit younger than me because I did watch wrestling when I was younger, but I grew up in the era of the Ric Flairs and the Hulk Hogans and the Macho Man Randy Savage and Sting and the Ultimate Warrior and stuff like that. And for me, like at the time, my number one guy was Macho Man Randy Savage. There was just something about that dude, like I was magnetized to his aura and his persona. Like every time he was on stage or on TV, I tuned in. Now, I've told this story before and I'll share it with you and for the new audiences that are not aware. So I haven't gotten into wrestling in a very long time, but when I was a kid, there was a very prominent time where I was really into wrestling, like the era that I just told you about. And me being a snotty-nosed little kid and it's kind of delusional, like I was under the impression that wrestling was the realest thing ever, even though it's entertainment. I don't want to say it's fake, but it's definitely performative and it's entertainment, at the end of the day. But no, like there was always that debate going on, like, oh, wrestling's real, wrestling's fake. I was always on the side that it's real life, and like I thought that these characters were really who they were when they woke up and they went to bed.
Yeah.
So I remember the day that wrestling died for me is when it was during the NWO, and Hulk Hogan comes out and they think that he's gonna save the day and beat Scott Hall and I forget the other dude's name, and but then he joins forces with them and he becomes heel, and it was like the biggest shock in wrestling at that time. And me, I was so invested in it at the time that I was actually heartbroken and I was depressed to see that one of my favorite wrestlers at the time, Hulk Hogan, turned into heel, and I was a mess. Like, I was devastated. That was like the worst thing that could have happened to me as a fan of wrestling back
Yeah.
then. So that, and then along with with people in my circle telling me that, oh, why are you even wasting your time with that? Wrestling's fake, it's not real. Like, you're just wasting all your time and effort and energy on something that's not even realistic. And that pretty much kind of sealed my fate as far as like being a fan of it. But I will say this, over time, I haven't been watching it a lot recently. I did watch the last WrestleMania, which I thought was phenomenal. I thought it was great.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just feel like I've learned to have a bigger respect for it, even though I'm not very well versed in it at all. I don't watch every single Monday. I don't watch every single WrestleMania that comes out. But I have a newfound respect for it that I feel like I didn't prior. And I think it was because even though I found out that it was stylized, it was performative, it was entertainment, but at the end of the day, what these guys do is not fake. I mean, this is they get hurt for real. There's a lot of injuries. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that is really dangerous and things that they do, but they do it because of the love of the sport, and they do it for the kids and so on and so forth. And I think that's where I found the newfound respect for wrestling overall now.
Definitely. Yeah. I still wake up, with my back hurting. My last match was like roughly maybe a week and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm sitting here, my back still hurts, so there ain't nothing, fake about that. So definitely, people had that misconception on it, but overall we're going to say it's entertainment. That's what we're here for. And it's to entertain you guys, Definitely it's not easy, definitely takes a toll on our body. Mental health. There's a lot that comes with it,
Yeah.
Definitely if you got family, time away. But overall, entertainment is what we're here for,
Is there any way or that you could describe what was it about wrestling in particular that became your first passion? Because for me, it really started off with film, man. Because I'm just a huge movie buff, and I would get so into it that I would read articles about behind the scenes. I read trivia. I read all the stuff. Like I do my homework on certain films that I absolutely love, and that's how I get invested in it. How is it that you told you, like, I guess, was there a time in your life where it just a light bulb just went off in your head and you were like, you know what, this is what I want to do with my life?
Yeah, like the way it started was definitely, I guess, my favorite, wrestlers did influence that. So the mindset was there at a young age, in my teen years.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like that's cool. Like I would like to be, doing stuff like that. Like, wow. And then also, like I said before, the guys that, looked up the part that I looked up to, like Brock Lesnar with the big, crazy physiques, monsters. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, like I would like to look like this dude, and then put on a show and be in front of a crowd. But I guess as time went past, my route changed. I got into bodybuilding. So that's how I started first. I started chasing that path and career. And then once I did that for like 4 or 5 years and stopped doing it for a while because eventually I had, had kids, I had a family, so I had to put the bodybuilding kind of to the side a little bit and focus on, more reality, which was the kids, the family. After, let them grow up a little bit, 2 years went by. I'm like, what else can I do, with myself if I'm not going to be a bodybuilder no more, And that's where eventually I thought of the physique aspect again, I'm like, okay, I look great. I look up to par. When I was a bodybuilder, I walk up and down the street. People used to think I was a wrestler. Hey, I used to just walk down the street normally.
Yeah.
Whatever, come out the gym. Hey, man, by any chance, are you a wrestler? Are you a MMA fighter? Or I'm like, nah, I'm just a bodybuilder, So that was that. So it just made me think of, okay, if I'm not going to bodybuild no more, what else can I do? I thought of those moments a few times when I've been stopped and people had the eye for that. Like, yo, this guy looks like, a wrestler, a fighter of some sort. So eventually I said, you know what? I thought about it as a kid. Life went on. That path didn't become that. I trickled over to the bodybuilding world, the fitness world. But now as I got older, I was like, okay, I can revert back to that. Like I have the look, I have the body. And the way I looked at it was like, if these people on the street, seen that in me, why not start pursuing it,
Yeah.
actually do it like how I originally wanted to do when I was a kid. And if the right people see me, like how these people on the street have the eye for that, it'll fit. And I'll be honest, like it's happened, and been doing it roughly 2 years now. And I've been in the gym, also in the street and stores, and I've gotten it. And now I can actually say I embrace it, and it feels good that I can reply back now and say, yeah, I am actually a wrestler. And, I'll quickly, they'll be like, for real? And I'll be like, yeah, let me show you real quick. And once I show them on my phone, they're like, wow, So like definitely that's how, the input is like now, like it was there as a kid. It didn't happen right away, but it's happening now.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah.
gonna go full force.
Now, you would consider your wrestling and your bodybuilding as an art, right?
Definitely.
Okay, so that essentially makes you an artist. Now,
Yes.
we all know that when it comes to artists in general, it doesn't matter what you're doing it, but you're an artist in your own right. Now, us especially being Hispanics, I mean, I'm Colombian and Costa Rican, you're Italian and Puerto Rican.
Correct.
We come from a family of people that have trepidations of their children wanting to do something in the arts per se. So with that being said, did you feel any pushback or maybe some kind of disappointment from your family that weren't exactly thrilled with your endeavors? Maybe they thought that this is just delusions of grandeur, and maybe they thought that you would have been better off doing something else.
No, I wouldn't say.
So they were supportive of your endeavors.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's great.
Definitely. Like they were supportive with the bodybuilding.
Okay.
When I was bodybuilding, they were supportive. Because they'll give me the compliments. It's like, yeah, like you got a great look. Like bodybuilding is a little different form of art. It's they base it on certain things depending on what class you participate in, whether it's men's physique, classic physique, bodybuilding. So definitely my family seen it. They was like, yeah, you got the nice little small waist, handsome man, you look great, as long as you build yourself to that, which I did, I was going to the gym and I kept doing it.
There you go.
They seen it and it was like, yeah, like you got it,
Now, do you think that if you weren't a bodybuilder or a wrestler, do you think that you like one of your priorities in life overall is just your overall physical health?
Yeah.
Because I know that for what you do, you have to take care of it like a temple. Like you have to go a little bit more harder than what the normal Joe has to go through. But even if that wasn't the case, you would still have that mindset. Like, like if you weren't a wrestler or actor or a bodybuilder or anything like that, you'd still be working out, you'd still be eating right, you'd still be doing whatever it takes to take care of your physique, because that's just who you are. That's just embedded into your personality.
Definitely. Yeah, because like I mentioned before, as a kid, like that was just something that was always in my head for some reason. Like I just grew up and I don't know. It was always like, yo, I'm gonna look good when I grow up. Like I want to look up the part. I want to look jacked. I want to look, like just look in shape. So definitely, if bodybuilding and find its way towards me or the wrestling, definitely I will be in that fitness atmosphere. Just staying in shape. Because just my mindset as a kid. That's how it was,
Did you also feel like you got that same support out in your old neighborhood in Brooklyn?
Yeah. Because definitely that's what started making me stand out. Like, I'll be honest, like, I was really a home kid, growing up.
Introverted?
Yeah.
Okay.
The way my mom raised me,
Sure.
it was just, there's nothing good in the streets. And like I mentioned, I'm from the projects, so definitely, I grew up where I was raised a certain way. So, being outside wasn't pleasant to me, I would stay inside the home. And like I said, played video games.
Sure. Yeah.
Tuned into wrestling whenever it popped up. I wasn't on the game. But, yeah, like.
But also, it seems like with your endeavors and what you wanted to do, this is also something that you thought of as trying to get out of this environment, because even though you have your dreams and your aspirations and so on and so forth, you know at the end of the day where you living, where you come from, is not exactly the ideal place that you want to stay forever.
Definitely it does add the fuel to the fire, that drive.
That always gives that extra push, that motivation,
Yeah.
because you put in an environment like that, and most if not all people are like, I got to do something to get the hell out of here, because this is not what it's supposed to be. I mean, I could, God forbid, I could just go down to the bodega to get like a bottle, a gallon of milk, and something, God forbid, may happen to me, and I won't be able to make it home.
Definitely. That's why I was raised a certain way, and I'm proud of it, I wasn't outside all the time, playing basketball like these other kids. Don't get me wrong.
But you were still very aware of your environment.
Most definitely. I hear from my mom all the time. Even when I did have those thoughts of, seeing the kids out, and I'm like, okay, like, I get, it's bad outside, but I want to, be a kid a little bit,
Right.
She just taught me a different formal way of being a kid, just in a safer way. Like, hey, you can still have friends, you can still play, you could go online, play with the kids. And sure enough, eventually I adapted to that, and I didn't need the outside world,
Yeah. I mean, you created your own world, essentially.
Definitely.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you were able to build a character of your own, and that's the character you're displaying today.
Yes.
When as soon as you wake up and as soon as you go to bed.
Definitely.
That's awesome. And are your family still with you? Like, your parents still around?
Yes.
Okay. So, and how have they been supportive of your endeavors ever since?
They're in my corner every step of the way.
Love that.
Definitely. Father, big supporter.
Is that the Puerto Rican or the Italian?
Puerto Rican.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad is definitely a big supporter. He sees it in me, and every time I speak to him, or I post anything that just revolves around his son, which is me, is like, he's just amazed by what's going on, and he can see a bright future, and he's very proud of me, especially coming from where I came from.
Yeah.
I'm making sure I step out and break that, I guess we'll say, cycle for most of us in that environment.
Sure.
We stay stuck in there.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm that select few that break that. And not only that, I got kids, like I said, if I can break that cycle and then influence my kids, then it would just help keep that cycle going to where that's not, that's not for us. Yes, we're raised here, but we're not going to stay here.
Yeah. Now, just like us, just from a human standpoint, not just necessarily about what you do or what you're about. At the end of the day, we're all human, and we're living in a time now where it's very proactive and very acceptable to talk about the struggles that we go through internally. And I myself have advocated so many times about mental health advocacy and the importance of therapy and doing what you need to do to be in a much better mental headspace. And one of the things that we've seen, especially in the world of wrestling or even in bodybuilding, because I actually know a couple of MMA fighters that not only love their craft, but they've also been big mental health advocates as well. And it seems to be something that was not talked about very much in the industry, but it's now socially acceptable. And it goes to show that there's a lot of you fighters and a lot of you wrestlers and bodybuilders that have dealt with a lot of internal pain for so long. And unfortunately, I happen to know some people that ended up taking their own lives, and you would never think that they would ever do this because they seem like they were the happiest people in the world, but you never know what's going on internally in a person. Yeah. So to get a little bit more personal here, and I hope you don't mind, but one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on my show is because not just because we got along great on set and I love everything that you've been doing as far as like wrestling and everything I see on your social media. Yeah. However, there was something that I saw on your page a couple of months ago where you were being really honest, open, and raw about what you were going through mentally. Like, you didn't explain explicitly what you were going through, but you let it be known that you were not in the right headspace at that time. And I reached out to you and you never responded back, but that's okay because I know that everybody else has their process. So I have, it's basically a two-part question. So the first question is, how are you doing today as we speak, as it's currently constituted? And two, what would you say was what was it that you did in order to get out of that mental rut that you were in at that specific time? Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't know you all that too well, but I knew you enough to where I was legitimately concerned about your well-being.
Got you, got you. Uh, I'll be honest. That was like one of the few times I've done that. Um, I don't normally do stuff like that, but definitely you're right. When I did post that, I guess I was looking for some type of maybe guidance or some type of acceptance, I guess, like, feel like I guess I'm not alone, or, you know, I guess I mean something in this world, Um, that's the way I kind of processed it. I did have a lot of people reach out. Definitely you was one of them. Just during the time, I do apologize for not replying back,
No,
but
no need for apology.
yeah,
I know what it's, not to cut you off, but I've been there myself, and I've done those things where I feel like I need to cry for help, or at least get the shit out of me so it doesn't fester in my
yeah,
brain. So I didn't take it personally. Like I said, I was just making sure that you were okay and you were going to be okay,
yeah,
because
yeah,
like I said, like I mentioned before, I know people that have unfortunately ended their lives too early, and it was because they felt like they couldn't get any help.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but and I'm glad that that wasn't the case with you, but I was legitimately concerned at one point. But I'm glad to see that you're doing fine
yeah.
for
Yeah, I'll
now.
be honest, it definitely, I was breaking down, um, but how I overcame that, I'm doing much better now.
Good.
And I guess I'll give it to the people that I'm around currently, that's helping influence and elevate me. But not only that, like the big will be my kids.
Yeah.
I had to still take that time to, step back and evaluate, what I was going through at the moment, but think about the big picture on like what was on the table.
Right.
And the big thing was my kids, and I'm like, if what I'm going through, if I let this just, eat me up and just take over, I'm not letting myself down, but I'm letting my kids down. I'm letting my family down. And one thing I'm trying not to do is do that, because what I'm trying to leave behind is a legacy.
Yeah.
And that's going for whether it's gonna be the acting business, the film business, wrestling business, or just overall content creator aspect. Just I want to make sure I leave a stamp with, you know, the. Name Pinet.
Hmm.
So I want to make sure, that stays and it doesn't go anywhere. So definitely I had to make sure I didn't let myself go that day and make sure I pulled through.
Yeah. I look at it. I looked at it more as like you were legitimately. It was a cry for help. That's what it was. And but you just didn't exactly how to get your thoughts and your emotions out there, especially to a huge forum like social media.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. At the end of the day, I'm never going to shame anybody for not being able to contextualize or fully encapsulate what they're feeling at that moment, because everybody has their own process.
Yeah.
And I feel like, well, first and foremost, I'm like I said, I'm glad that everything is working out so far for you, and I think it's actually very brave, because I know that that was a cry for help, but it was very brave of you to be open and honest, because it goes to show that there's more depths and layer to you as a person, and you're also not afraid to be honest with whoever is out there to listen. I mean, not social media is, it is what it is. I mean, it's a part of our everyday lives, but when it comes to you, you use it as it's basically your resume, it's your portfolio,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you took time out of promoting yourself to actually have a raw, real honest moment. And I thought that that was something that you don't see a lot of people in your realm necessarily do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was definitely a concern, but it was also something that I feel like is should be commended for for your sense of bravery, because I don't think a lot of people, specifically us Hispanic men, are really mentally predisposed to actually being that raw and honest. Well, okay, especially since we come from an era where talking about that kind of stuff was pretty much taboo.
Yeah. 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 Definitely, it wasn't easy, like I said, but definitely I I try to just, take the time that day. I I was shocked at how much people did reach out. I like I said, I felt accepted. There was people that actually cared. So definitely I wanted to make sure I didn't let everyone else down as well. Um, but a lot of people that do know me know I'm not one to ask for help. So that's why I did mention before, I don't normally do stuff like that. So it definitely was tough to like go ahead and post that. But definitely it was like one of those rough moments where it was like, okay, I do want to be heard, but I don't want to ask for the help. So it was weird, It's
It was a catch-22 for you. I could tell. Like
yeah.
it's you're clearly going through something, but you just don't know how to really put it out there. Like
Yeah.
like it kind of felt like it was like it was like a Hail Mary, so to speak, because like you did something that was out of your character, and that goes to show how much it was really affecting you at the time.
Yeah.
That you
Yeah.
actually relegated to social media to let your feelings be known.
Definitely. Yeah, like my character, being the animal, it's one thing. But like a lot of people that do know me and have met me and be around me, like, I'm John Pinet,
Yeah.
I'm just another character, but don't get me wrong, like I'm an animal in different forms of ways. And that's like, ambitious wise, like, I'm a go-getter, like like animal means a lot to me, just
Sure.
not being the animal, but I use that, within my life in a lot of things that I do. So definitely I'm a humble guy, I may
I
look
could tell.
intimidating. I may, whatever, judgment people will get for me, but once you meet me, I'm very humble, care-hearted, and I guess a lot of that would do trickle down to what I've been through, where I come from, where I was raised, to carry myself accordingly,
Yeah.
But definitely I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy.
Hey, listen, I don't think I would have had you on the show if I didn't think you were. Now, and I've definitely had to do my research and my homework because I've actually had assholes on my show before that I wish I never had before, but I know not to make those mistakes anymore. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
you're in good company.
Yeah.
But as far as continuing with your art, I mean, I could only imagine that has helped you tremendously with whatever trials and tribulations you go through, because I know that when I do this podcast or when I'm on a movie set or whatever, I'm doing something creative, I just forget about the fucking world for like, I don't know, half an hour, maybe a full day. And it's also very humbling to see that I'm actually doing something that I love doing, because crazy as it sounds, there's a lot of creative people out there. There's a
Yeah,
lot of people that are
yeah,
gifted,
yeah.
have talent, but I don't think there's nearly enough people that really realize their potential. And I feel very fortunate, like people like me and you and a couple of people that we know mutually have been able to find something that we really enjoy doing and what we want to do with our lives. And because at the end of the day, life is short. We never know when it's our time to go. So why
Yeah.
not just go for it and, worry more about the reward than the risk, if
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense.
The way I like to look at it is, I guess the way the world kind of, you know, like when we grow up, we just feel like it's school, work, go to college, and then get like a normal job,
Yeah.
Like, and I'll be honest, like growing up, like I knew I wasn't gonna be a doctor.
Right.
I knew I wasn't gonna be a cop. Like
I
those
mean,
are
I know. I was a C student. I was a C student. I knew I
yeah.
didn't want to do any of those
Same
things.
here, same here. I wasn't. I did what I had to do to make sure I passed.
Sure.
But I knew I wasn't gonna be any of these things that I guess is the norm for most families. Oh, grow up, be a firefighter, this and that. Like just like my family didn't think I would want to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
They didn't think I wanted to be a bodybuilder. Like as I grew up, they would ask me, "Hey, what do you want to be?" My response, honestly, was always, "I don't know. I don't know." But in the back of my head, like I mentioned before, was thoughts of, okay, big jacked guy, walk around, look handsome and good, athletically pleasing, whatever it was,
Yeah.
you know. But as I got older, I knew those traits and characteristics, the look and all that does actually open doors, and actually you could make a living off of it. You can do something with it, I don't have to be a doctor. I don't have to be a cop or whatever it is that is the norm for people. No, I can actually be an actor. I can be a wrestler. I can be a bodybuilder, a fitness celebrity, whatever it is, you know. But I can be something else that's not the norm when you grow up in life.
What made you want to pursue the acting part in your journey?
Wrestling.
Well, I mean, it is performative at the end of the day. So,
Yeah.
yeah. You're already acting, so.
Yeah, that's definitely how I got into it. We have mutual friends. Banks.
Sure.
Chris
yeah.
Banks. So shout out to him.
Yep.
He was one of the ones that actually put me on to the film that we was in together. And definitely when we had the conversation prior to me showing up, it was, you know, hey, it's no different than wrestling. You know, where you're playing a role, you're playing a character, you're running a script, you're acting, you know. So that's kind of how I went about it. I was a wrestler for maybe 8, 9 months, 10 months. And I'm in contact with my guy Banks. He sent me the role one day. We had that conversation. I said, okay. A lot of wrestlers do become actors.
Yeah.
You know, John Cena, Batista, The Rock, these guys all have been in movie roles.
Yeah.
And that's how I looked at it. I'm like, okay, be a wrestler. It's no different than acting. That's where we are. And potentially I can open them doors of being in a role in a movie film.
And you can make the argument that low-key wrestlers are some of the best actors in the world, because when they're you know, portraying their persona, they develop that character from the ground up, and they keep on building and building, and they're doing it day in and day out, and they're maintaining this image, like they live it, you know, they live their character. So you're able to compartmentalize all of that and just delve into your character, the person that you're portraying every single night in the ring. And you could also apply that to a different art, which is acting. So, you know, even though you may not have the proper, you know, Sandy Meisner training that everybody likes to do, and no knock on that, because I'm a student of the game as well, but I don't think that we often recognize that wrestlers are just, you know, performative as regular actors, and they actually have what it takes. They have the chops to really turn in the best performances possible.
Yeah. I'll definitely say it's like a starter, like a template.
Yeah.
To acting. You know, it's being in front of the audience.
Yeah.
You know, in front of the cameras, or just overall just running your script. You know, like what your role is, what you have to perform, what you have to say, you know, with your segments, whatever it is. It's definitely, like, it's not easy. But definitely, definitely some good actors come from wrestlers, as we know, John Cena, Rock, Batista.
Now, I've known you for a little bit now, and I know how much of a nice guy you are, how humble you are, and, you know, you're a very grounded person. But again, you're an artist, you're performative. So I haven't seen you in the ring, you know, with my own two eyes in person, but, you know, your name is the Animal for a reason.
Yeah.
So you like you're completely opposite when you're in the ring. Like, you're a madman.
Yes.
You're all the way out. You're going balls out. So like I know that you're playing a character per se, but how is your process into getting into that mind state as soon as you get in the ring, and you like John Pinet is nowhere to be found. It's just clearly John the Animal.
Well, first I try to, I guess, warm up in the back, you know, mentally, not only physically, because yes, I am back there, you know, some push-ups in, you know.
Gotta do what you gotta do, yeah.
But mentally, I am trying to, I guess, snap into that character, so that the minute I come out those curtains, they don't see John Pinet. They see the Animal.
Yeah.
And it's not too hard, you know. Like I'm getting used to it, you know. I'm fairly green still, fairly new, but I'm getting used to the character, and I just kind of, I guess, use references from guys that I look up to, Brock Lesnar, Goldberg.
Right.
Look up to those guys. So when I'm in there, I just kind of, I would say, I guess, kind of put myself in their shoes, but just use their form of style or energy, you know, to bring out who I am, which is the Animal. And that would probably be the explosiveness, you know, or if I do a certain move, I'll make sure I make it look big so it can look, the audience can be like, wow, because you can do a move. I could do a regular body slam. Yeah, big guy does a body slam, cool. But if I do a body slam and actually put more into it, more whatever it is, more hand movement or more force or more of myself, reenactment of the after effect, like once I do it, explode up, give them a taunt, add on to it, it would just fill in more of what the character is, make everything just look more better, bigger, and showcase who the animal is.
What is the worst injury you've sustained so far?
A wrist sprain.
Wrist sprain. Okay.
And that was actually during training.
Okay.
It was very weird. I took a back bump. So a back bump would just be your normal, land on your back. But I guess I kind of, instead of landing flat how we're supposed to, it was kind of like a boom, boom. So for some reason, for like 2 weeks, like I sprained this. It was like a little swollen. I couldn't do a push-up for like 2 weeks because it was kind of like locked in.
Jesus.
But that was maybe like 8 months into, my wrestling career.
Training in.
Yeah. So I'm like 2 years now. So maybe 8 months in. That's about it.
You luckily haven't sustained anything too serious in the ring.
And I'm hoping not to.
Yeah, no, of course not.
Because that's one thing about being a wrestler, getting hurt, it can potentially, it can end it.
Right.
A lot of wrestlers have said it, try to avoid injury, try to also save your bumps, because I've heard it. I was at a Chavo Guerrero seminar like last month, and one thing he really mentioned was the body, the temple, like how long you think you can do this for. So make sure everything counts. So one thing he specifically said was how many bumps you think your body has in you. Everybody has a different number. Like say if you was to become a wrestler, you probably have 100,000 bumps in you, before something happens. I probably have 80,000, so it's, try to make sure everything count, be on the safe side. And because with the wrestling, longevity is what we're looking for. Some wrestlers have cut their career short due to injuries, or if they didn't cut them short, put a hold on their career. So definitely that's one thing I want to avoid, because this is kind of like what I'm doing now. So if I get injured, I'm stopping money flow, I'm stopping, marketing, promotion, actually helping get myself out there.
Yeah.
And I want to keep the ball rolling.
And just like in podcasting and just like with music and everything else that's involved in the arts, you are not only being a person that's performing an act and playing a character in the ring, but you also basically have to play the role of manager, accountant, agent, marketer, the whole nine, because now we live in a society where you can't just simply do what you do and then afterwards call it a day. Like what we're doing right now is my favorite part of doing the podcast. But I know that later on I'm gonna have to cut promos, I have to do the social media thing, and it can be very time consuming and draining, and I just kind of don't want to do that. But you have to go up against basically Apple's marketing campaign at this point, you have to do a whole lot more work. So you've been very, very consistent on social media, and that's a good thing to see. But how draining can it be for you sometimes that you just want to focus on doing what you actually love as opposed to just putting it out there for the world to consume?
How can I put this? Ask that one more time for me, so I could really.
Yeah. So I mean, like, doesn't it seem like more of a chore having to, promote yourself out there on social media and doing your own marketing as opposed to just wanting to focus on the actual thing that you love doing, which is actually being in the ring and performing?
Yeah, I guess you can say it's kind of a chore, but I actually look forward to it.
Okay.
It might be like the dirty work, like I actually look forward to editing my videos, You know, like, don't get me wrong. It would be cool to have, like, you know, a little team put together, you know, have them do that for me when I could just strictly just be in the ring, do what I do. Once I'm done, my day's over. Hey, kick back, eat, whatever, you know, be with the family while my team is taking care of the rest. I don't have that privilege now, but as of now that I do it myself, I do enjoy it. You know, I look forward to it. A lot of the guys that record, like for the shows and even the photographers,
Yeah.
they'll tell you the next day I'm already hitting them up. Hey, is there any pictures from last night's event? Any clips? You know, I'm hitting the videographers, the photographers, just because I look forward to that part.
Okay.
You know,
You're a better man than me.
hey.
I wish I could just. I wish this form has made more money to the point where I actually can pay somebody to do that stuff.
Yeah.
But all due in time. But you know, that's basically where I'm getting at.
Yeah. I don't know. I look forward to it.
Okay.
You know, I like putting my little montages together, my little clips, little audio in the back, little effects. I look forward to it. I don't know. It's just me.
Yeah. Now, your father.
Yes.
How much is it a great thing to see that, you know, you're not only doing something that you love, but you're also seeing these creations that you made actually being proud of you and seeing your father being their hero and doing something that is so phenomenally cool.
It's amazing. Amazing feeling. Definitely, they got a cool dad. I'll definitely say, you know.
All right. Humble bragging. I love it.
Yes. I'm still waiting for one of these days where they do, what is it, bring your parent to
Yeah,
school
bring your
day.
child to work day.
Yeah, what they do for work, you know. Even though a lot of them do know I am a wrestler.
Yeah.
But definitely I would like to take the time to actually, you know, give them a little bit more, you know, face-to-face encounter, speak to them a little bit more. But definitely it feels good, you know, knowing that my 4 kids get to, you know, see me live perform, and then hopefully one day, you know, make it big so that they can, you know, really endure that. Not how they, you know, they endure now. They love it. Yeah, dad, wrestler. You know, my kids have, you know, social media as well. So a few times, oh, look, dad, you know, they're just scrolling through, oh, look, dad, you just popped up on my feed. And I'm just like, wow, you know, and they love it. You know, they love to see my matches when they can't go to the shows sometimes. And I'll show them the matches after. They love to see it. But it's definitely a good feeling knowing that, you know, I'm doing something with myself and I can inspire my kids, you know, not only the world, but my creation, my you know, my little minions.
Yeah. Have they been inspired to do what you want to do? And do you support that, or do you prefer that they do something else with their life?
I've had this conversation with the mother.
Okay.
And I wouldn't force it on them. But I guess I'm opening the door for them.
You wouldn't discourage them.
No. If they choose anything else to do besides being a wrestler,
Right.
That's perfectly fine with me. Definitely, if any of my 4 kids choose to be a wrestler, I'll definitely, you know, help them along the way, you know, teach them the way.
Yeah.
But they're open to be whatever they want, you know. I'm there on their corner. I just want to make sure, well, what I'm doing currently, presently, I can leave that legacy behind for them to just open, you know, make it a little more easier for them on whatever it is that they want to pursue. So.
Now, one of the things that's fascinating to me about wrestling in general is, you know, in football, baseball, basketball, any of the 4 major sports, you already kind of know what the process is like. Like you go, you know, you're basically playing these games ever since you're a kid. You play in high school, you go to college, and then if you're lucky enough, you'll get drafted into the pros, and then afterwards you try to make a career out of it. And depending on how talented and how hard you work, you could be a successful athlete in those respective sports. But when it comes to wrestling, I've always wondered, like, it's not like necessarily like you. I mean, yeah, obviously you can do it in school. I mean, they have wrestling teams and so on and so forth and everything. But I always wondered, like, what is the process of having to become a success in the industry? Because I feel like if there is a blueprint for it, it's not very knowledgeable to the general public. I'm not saying that it's gatekeeping, but it seems like it's only something that people that are in that medium are specifically familiar with, or they know what it takes to actually make it to the top.
I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer on it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Okay.
And just like the sports that you mentioned, that will apply with the NBA, NFL, NHL, like across the line. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of talented sports players.
Sure.
You know, like you could go to any neighborhood and it could be just that neighborhood guy that grew up and he was like the best basketball player. He was the best in his high school, whatever it is, but he never made it. So the way I look at it is he knew he had it, but he just didn't have the right people. So to me, it falls back on not what you know, because the person knows what they're doing. They got it. They're the nicest person. They're good. They all out. They're the best in their team, whatever it is in the sport and whatever they do. But they probably won't make it because they don't have the connections, maybe the right people, the right circle to help get them into the right direction. So I'm just a strong believer on, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Now, would you say it's fair to say that, because in the podcast game, one of the things that I notice is that there's people that are in this industry like myself that do it because they genuinely love it and they have a passion for it and so on and so forth. Whereas I know plenty of other podcasters that they're just strictly doing this for clout. Yeah. Would you say that that's actually a fair assessment, that applies to some people, not all people, but some people in the wrestling industry?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've been in the locker room, few locker rooms, different promotions, and there is a few. I'm very good at reading people.
Okay.
And definitely there are those that you can tell they have the ego, they think they're the top shit, they're the best, blah, blah, blah. And just the way they carry themselves is just, it's not it, Then you have those that you can tell are humbled, respectful, they actually love what they do. They want to make sure they impress, they perform to the best of their ability. And then the other ones don't care. They're just doing it for their own self, whatever reasons, But you can definitely tell the passion is not there. They're not doing it for us. They're doing it for themselves. So definitely there's a difference there.
Now, I know that wrestling is performative, and I know that there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because maybe it's like one of the best kept secrets of the business. But I guess I'll ask it this way, and it may be silly to ask, but is there a way that a match will already be determined before either party steps into the ring?
Yes.
Okay. Because I've always wondered how that works. It's not like in the other sports where it's whoever was the better team that in that game is ultimately going to win. And in boxing, it's like, or in MMA, it's like who was the one that kicked ass. But wrestling is a different animal because there is a winner and a loser, but at the end of the day, it is performative. So I've always wondered, and you don't have to share it here if you don't want to, but I'm just curious about the process, about how it goes about, who determines who wins a match and who doesn't.
It'll fall on the promotion.
Okay.
It'll fall on the promotion. It'll fall on, I guess, if this is the proper term to use, the clout on the person.
Okay.
Because I'll be honest, like a lot of it is, like, I guess you could say crowd favorite, like who can maybe bring in, I guess, more audience. Like that's how they kind of.
Who's the draw? Yeah.
Yeah, like I've seen it. I've been in locker rooms. A few of my matches, I've been on the losing side, and I've seen it. It was all because the guy went up against. He had a lot of people in the audience that knew who he was. Like it could be a new promotion for me, old promotion for them. more than likely that person is going to go over just because that's their home promotion. The crowd knows who they really are. I'm the new guy, so it's like, okay, like it's that's kind of how most of it is based, you know. But if it's like two fresh guys, nobody knows either.
Right.
It could just be more so on whatever the promotion wants. Who they
Gotcha.
feel like, okay, if we let this guy win, more than likely the audience will probably, embrace it. Like, okay, yeah, he deserved it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he was more of a fan favorite anyway, But that's normally how it would be. It would either be the promotion, who could draw in more people.
Yeah. That's
how most of it goes.
One of my favorite movies is actually The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. I love that fucking movie. I think it's so great. I always cry at the end. But one of the things that I think was really cool to see in the beginning, because you get to see behind the scenes, is there's a match with these two wrestlers, and in the ring they look like they hate each other's guts, and they're going at it. And then afterwards they win. They go backstage to the locker room, and they're hugging it out like they're the best friends in the world.
Yeah.
And I guess I just never really saw it from that standpoint. I thought that dynamic was really cool because it really goes to show that these guys really are good actors. They're able to put on a hell of a show.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, it's a really insulated community that you guys are supportive of one another.
Definitely. With the wrestling, it's definitely 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go in there with, the mindset to where we're there to enhance each other.
Mm.
That's kind of the terminology we use.
Okay.
To the audience, it's a win or lose. To us, it's about the performance, satisfaction, getting the job done for the crowd. So definitely, we're enhancers. We make sure keep each other safe. If the task is to make the other guy look better, you do that. So, in the ring, we're looking like enemies. We don't like each other. We're putting on the show like how we're supposed to. We're getting the audience drawn into it like, oh, yeah, these dudes hate their guts.
Mm-hmm.
But most definitely, after we're done with the match, we're back there. We kind of, give each other our props. And if anything, sometimes we do run through whatever probably, hey, man, you kind of messed up here. Like, yo, what happened here? Like, is everything all right? What happened here? But overall, before we step out there, we make sure we're 50-50. Like where we're good with each other, we understand each other's style, but whatever the promotion wants, we're going to execute when we get out there.
Yeah.
But definitely that is kind of how it goes.
I love seeing that. I love seeing that. Now, I noticed that you're basically covered in tattoos.
Yeah.
And you actually have a character, one of my favorite villains of all time. But for the audience that is not able to watch it, they're listening right now. You're just all covered up from your chest, your neck, your arms, and everything. Just out of curiosity, what would you say is your most meaningful tattoo?
Meaningless?
Meaningful.
Well, I guess it would be the one that's actually on my shins that you can't see.
Right.
So I have God's gift going down my shin, and to me that just means a lot. I may have to say that for another episode, but if I was to really speak like real more in depth about like my life, the way I looked at it is like, okay, like I'm God's gift. I'm here for a reason. I wasn't just, whatever. God created me. Okay, here's just an extra person in population, whatever. No, like I feel like I have a purpose, and definitely the man above. I'm His gift.
Definitely a man of faith.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. Well, listen, we're kind of pressed for time, man, but I just want to say that I really appreciate you coming on and telling your story and being honest and forthright with questions that I had that to some may be considered taboo or maybe whatever the case may be. But I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the conversation. First and foremost, also thank you for the support, because I know that you've been a supporter of the show since,
of course,
since you first heard about it, since you got wind of it. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what you got. I mean, not just with the wrestling thing, but we're basically contemporaries now as far as acting is concerned.
Yes.
I mean, spoiler alert: this guy actually puts bullet holes in me. You'll see that later. But that was
He's not lying. He's not lying. I don't know how he's still standing.
Teflon Don, baby. But anyway, no, I appreciate you taking the time of coming out here, and I wish you all the success in the world. And we're in 2025 now. It's a brand new year, and I hope that everything that you want to achieve going forward and beyond is within your grasp. And most importantly, I'm also glad to see that you were able to get out of the rut that you were in at first that we spoke about before. And I just hope that it's just up from here.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Thank you for having me.
And before we go, you ready, Najee, for our final segment? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for everybody's favorite segment for First Class Second Place. This is This or That. If you've never seen the show before, what happens is I ask my guests here multiple choice questions. Nothing right or wrong answers, just whatever he likes or whatever they like. And then afterwards, it gives you an opportunity to find out more about you, and we could put a positive spin on this episode at the end.
Okay.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready, Najee? Are you ready, John?
Yes.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. For This or That. You, Mr. John the Animal.
Yes.
Playlist or podcast?
Playlist.
All right. Slides or Crocs?
Slides.
Beach or pool?
Pool.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
Do you prefer Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
Do you rather give or receive?
Receive.
Okay. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I don't know, neither.
It depends on the day.
Yeah.
Well, are you saying that you don't know what an introvert or extrovert is?
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, so introvert is basically somebody that's very reserved. They stay out. They like to be a homebody. Extrovert is like very out and about.
Nah,
very
intro.
All right, so
I'm a
intro.
homebody.
Okay. Who do you prefer, Batman or Superman?
Superman.
Iron Man or Captain America?
Captain America.
Mofongo or pasta bolognese?
Mofongo.
All right. Are you glass half empty or glass half full?
Half empty.
Okay. Would you rather be embarrassed or be afraid?
Be afraid.
Would you rather be too hot or be too cold?
Too cold.
Do you prefer the window seat or the aisle seat?
Window.
Are you book smart or street smart?
Street smart.
Do you prefer reading or writing?
Writing.
Ice water or room temperature?
Ice.
Scott Hall or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson?
The Rock.
The Wrestler or Ready to Rumble?
Ready to Rumble.
And then finally, teamwork or solo project?
Nah, teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Ladies and gentlemen,
That's a
that is going to
fact.
do it for This or That. And that is going to do it for this episode of First Class Second Place. Thank you so much to my guest, John Pinet, a.k.a. John the Animal, for coming through. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to before we close out?
Want to give a shout out to my wife, most definitely. My guy, BG Wayne, Zilla Fatu, and the whole crew.
All right. And once again, where can they find you again on social media?
At John the Animal. That would be across the board: Facebook, TikTok, YouTube.
Yeah, basically, John the Animal. JOHNDANMA. I can't spell it.
ANIMAL. Yes,
there we
correct.
go. All right, there we go. It's teamwork. That's what
Yes,
it's about.
yes.
Teamwork. All right, well, John, thanks again for coming through, man. I really appreciate this, and we'll definitely do this again sometime. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at I am Jason Enrique on all social media platforms. Don't forget to like, subscribe on YouTube at Jason Enrique. Thank you so much for tuning in, and welcome to New Year 2025. I'll wish you a great one. We'll tune in next week. This has been the First Class Second Place podcast. We out.